Well, it looks like we might have a small group, which is actually awesome because Pat, our instructor, has worked in some discussion topics, so it'll be awesome to be able to hear from everyone in the room. Um, but before we really get going, I just want to do a quick introduction of GIST and what this program is today. So I will just take a few minutes. First of all, my name is Mandy Sutton. I am a senior program officer at VentureWell, working on the GIST project. I've been working on GIST for about a decade now, so I've been very lucky to go all around the world, meeting a whole bunch of young science and tech entrepreneurs, including, I think, at least one of the people in the room today. So we're always really excited to get to talk to you, and get to have some folks come back and see us again. So today we're going to have a masterclass about generative AI prompt engineering. But before we do that, let me just talk very briefly to GIST's mission. So GIST stands for Global Innovation Through Science and Technology. This is a State Department funded program. It was started more than 12 years ago. We work with young science and tech innovators in more than 130 emerging economies around the world. VentureWell is who I actually work for. We are the implementing partner of the GIST project. Um, VentureWell is a nonprofit based in Western Massachusetts on the East Coast of the United States. And we are, as this says, driven to solve the world's biggest challenges through innovation. So VentureWell does all sorts of programs with young entrepreneurs, both internationally and here in the United States. And we are focused on launching ventures, helping entrepreneurs raise funds, training individuals, and working with higher education institutions to make sure that they are supporting their student entrepreneurs in getting their innovations to the market. So that's who we are. Without any further ado, I am going to introduce to you, this is Patrick Johans. Patrick will be leading the masterclass today. I had his bio in front of me and now I don't, but he is a professor at the business school at University of Iowa. And he is, quite luckily for us, literally writing the book on AI right now. So he is here today to talk all about that. And I will let him give a more thorough introduction to himself. So Pat, if you just want to, I'm going to stop sharing my screen
Okay.
and you can start sharing yours.
All right. I think you should have my screen there now.
We do, thank you.
All right. So here's kind of our plan for today. Got a few things that we're going to kind of introduce a topic here, and then we're going to take a look at what I'm calling the focus framework for creating a good prompt. Uh, a key to getting good results from a generative AI, a chatbot, comes from writing good prompts and having a good prompt strategy. And so we're going to take a look at a framework for doing that. And then we'll do a breakout session where we will practice it to make sure you walk away with some useful skills. We'll come back from that breakout session. We'll do some look at some more advanced strategies. I'll give you some things you need to be cautious of, and then we will just handle some questions at the end. A little bit about myself. I'm a professor at the University of Iowa in business analytics. I do come from a very heavy STEM background. I have a degree in microbiology and did research for a number of years in immunology and developmental biology before I went back. And basically what I'm in now is applied math. I am have developed quite an interest in artificial intelligence, and I'm working on a book on artificial intelligence in business right now. Uh, you can probably see from my background, it's a little unusual. I am not in Iowa in that background. I've been involved with some of the State Department programs, doing training over in Kenya. Been over there 3 times, doing venture programs and teaching innovation and entrepreneurship in Kenya. I've taught on 5 different continents, so I've got kind of a global perspective on things. So let's just talk about generative AI. It is what is making the news right now. We have had, it's all the buzz, and companies are talking about how they're going to bring AI into their firm. And what people are really talking about is generative AI when they have these conversations. because AI has been around for decades. Work in that area started back in the 50s, and things like spam detectors and uh, when your credit card does fraud detection, that's artificial intelligence. But what's made the news is generative AI. And where generative AI is different from what I'll call traditional AI, is it's applying artificial intelligence into creating new content. So it's used a lot for brainstorming, to helping design new products, to automating content creation. Uh, it is using predictive methods from a large database. So it studies um, data that's been loaded up. So if we're talking about an art AI, they've loaded up lots and lots of photographs and paintings. And the AI learns from that, learns patterns from it. With your chatbots, languages have been loaded up and conversations and newspaper articles, all the written content out there on the web, people have thrown into the AI and it studied the patterns of words. And so when we ask it a question, it's going to generate a lot of different answers, but it's using prediction what goes into the next word. Um, and so it creates this new content. And then it may develop, 20 different versions of an answer and picks out the one that its knowledge tells it's the best. I guess it's not so important that you know how it works, but how can we use it? How can we make it effective? Um, and the reason why that's important is it is growing in businesses around the world. And it's important, especially if you are in a developing nation, that you get on the bandwagon. It's going to be one of those things. It's called the digital divide. And the digital divide is the fact that there are countries that have a lot of resources and countries that don't. The ones that have good infrastructure and high-speed internet, those things are really good for the development of artificial intelligence. And those countries are going to have advantages. The same things with people who have a lot of wealth. People live in cities versus people live in rural areas. And so that's one of the reasons why we have programs like this, is to try and bridge that digital divide, to help everybody um, in the development of AI and getting the benefits of AI. So let's get into this whole idea of how we're going to use it, because I'm not going to teach you about AI. I'm going to teach you how to use AI. And it starts with a prompt. And so we see that we've got a circular pattern here. You're basically carrying on a conversation with a computer. And so we see that prompt on the right there. That is what you're going to type into the chatbot. We've got the computer there, the generative AI there. It's going to use both the prompt and everything that's been trained with to create some output. Now, my first bit of advice is never take that output that it gives you as being the truth. Um, we've got to critically look at that, see if it delivered what we were looking for, see if what delivered us is true, and then we'll give it another prompt. And sometimes we may have to give it 4, 5, 6 prompts before we get to the output that we're looking for. But it all starts with that prompt. And so we need to know how to write a good prompt. And that's really the focus of, or one of the primary focuses of today's session. And I use something I call the focus framework. Each of those letters represents a word. And so a good prompt is focused, it's objective, it's contextual, it's unambiguous, and it contains a single query. And I'll take a look at each of those aspects in a little more detail. So when we talk about focus, we're talking about making sure our prompt is specific. We tell it what we want. Um, how long should it be? What sort of writing style should we have? So tell it what you're writing for. Um, is there critical information? Do we have number values to go with things? Do we have a budget perhaps? Um, tell it exactly what you want. Uh, I want to create a new recipe for whatever. You need to tell it what you want. And if you've got an example available, put that in. So I was generating a table for my book, which showed companies, the industries they were in, and how they used AI. And so I told it what I wanted for each of my headings in the table and asked it to generate data in a form that I could copy it into an Excel table. So I was being specific there. O stands for objective or goal. Tell it what you want. What is the purpose of your prompt? Uh, one of the great uses of AI is to summarize things. So I will oftentimes call up an article and ask it to summarize that article. The action word there is summarize. I say, please summarize this article, or I may ask it to summarize a particular aspect of that article. Summarize is telling me the action I want. Sometimes I will ask it and say, I'm considering these two things. Tell me the pros and cons. So I'm asking it to compare. I will oftentimes tell it what I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to choose which example to use for my book. What's the pros and cons of using this company versus that company? And if there's benchmarks, if you want a particular set of criteria in your answer, make sure you include those. By giving it the goal, that helps both the computer and you assess whether or not it's achieved what your objective was when you sat down at the computer. Right? Context is extremely important. One of the common uses I make of AI is helping write letters of recommendations for students. When you write a letter of recommendation, there's certain languages that people expect to use. So I tell it that I am writing a letter of recommendation for a student and they're going to a particular company. That way it knows the target, it knows the style of work to go off of. If I am writing a letter to another academic, I will indicate that academic and the situation. By the same token, if I know that academic personally, I put that in there. It adds some more context that the AI can add to the draft of the letter and will make it perhaps a little more informal of a letter. So it helps set the tone of the letter. I showed you that it's an iterative process. And so if 3 or 4 inputs back, it gave some output that I want to reference here. I will refer to that. One of the things that we'll be looking at after our breakout session is how we take a big project and break it down and used AI to help develop that project. And one of the things may be is if I am trying to set up a marketing campaign, well, maybe in step 1, I define who my target audience is. I will refer back to that target audience because that'll be important in terms of my media plan. All right, unambiguous, clear. So be concise, use direct language. If a word is ambiguous, make sure you clarify it and don't assume things. For an example, and it was an example I was trying to illustrate bad ways of doing things. I put in a real vague prompt and I said, I'd like to get a dog. And so we know there's lots of different kinds of dogs out there. And I had to go and then show them how they could improve in each step. But I said, oh, well, I want a small dog that's calm and will travel in the car well. And so I needed to avoid the assumptions that it knew what I wanted because obviously it doesn't know me. So state the assumptions there and try and limit things to a single query. Computers can get confused. If we want to get a good answer, make sure that we keep things simple. We can always ask another question. So that's kind of our focus framework for a good prompt. We want to make sure that we've got those aspects in there. Now, let me show you an example here. When they launched Bard, which was a kind of a famous chatbot, they went on Twitter and they were demoing it, and they said, "What new discoveries does the James Webb Telescope can I tell my 9-year-old about?" If we think about that focus framework, we can see this fits it very well. It's very clear what they're asking for. They want a set of examples that make the James Webb Telescope cool and interesting. Context, what they tell the audience. It's a 9-year-old. So we want to make sure that the things that we're sharing would be interesting to a 9-year-old, and it's geared toward a 9-year-old. If we were doing this and we wanted to share information to a group of astrophysicists, we'd put in there astrophysicists, and we get a very different answer, and it would get a different level of depth. So it's a very good, clear, direct prompt. We know knows what we want. And you can see the answer it gave there. And so that's how they launched Bard. Now, let me just take a moment here. Bard is what we call an open domain chatbot. That would be your chatbot like Copilot and ChatGPT and Llama and Claude, and there's a whole bunch out there. Basically, they're general chatbots. We can throw any sort of questions out there. This is opposed, the other side of that would be a closed domain chatbot, and that might be a chatbot a bank would have, where it's got a very limited set of knowledge, and if it doesn't know the answer, it'll tell you it doesn't know the answer, or it will refer things to a human. The thing about open domain chatbots are they're focused on giving you an answer. And the answer isn't always true. And so I use this example of an enthusiastic intern. They want to please you. They will tell you anything just to have an answer to tell you. And for your information, this is an image generated by DALL-E, which is a generative AI for images. It's always kind of fun to take a look at these images to see what's wrong. And you can see here that it doesn't have the print quite right there. But they're fun to play with. Now, why do I bring that up? Because when when an AI gives you an answer which isn't supported by the truth, it's called a hallucination. And open domain chatbots are prone to hallucinations. Key point here, don't rely on their answer being 100% true. Always verify. And even if it assures you it's the truth, doubly verify. So when we take a look at that answer that was given, it was actually pretty embarrassing because this was in 2023 that they launched Bard. And one of the things that they claimed Bard did was generate the very first pictures of a planet outside our solar system, when actually that was done in 2005 by the Hubble telescope. So on their very first public announcement of their artificial intelligence It told a lie. It hallucinated. And what's kind of interesting here, you might say, well, why didn't they test it out ahead of time? They could have. They probably did. But the thing about a generative AI is every time you type something in, it's generating an answer from scratch. You're not going to get directly 100% repeatable results. So this is what I'm calling the prompt refinement process. When you sit down, what is it you're trying to achieve? Maybe you want to write this down, but you want to really think about what you're trying to achieve in your discussion with the AI. And then we may do that step of writing a good prompt. We're going to get a response from it. Check to see if it's true. If it's not, we're going to rephrase our prompt. So when I get something that I think is suspect from an AI, I will oftentimes ask it, give me a reference, give me a web link. I can go look that up. If what they gave me was true, we still have another question to ask. Did it achieve my goal? So maybe I was trying to generate a table that contained a certain information. Did it get me all I wanted? Or perhaps I'm trying to come up with a good example of a company that uses fraud detection. Did it give me an example I could use? If it didn't, I'll go back and refine my prompt. When I get an answer that fits my needs, I'm done. So that's our prompt refinement process. I briefly mentioned a closed domain chatbot a minute ago, and this is just to reiterate that on how it's different from that open domain one. The closed domain is limited in its knowledge, and they also put limits on the answers. So while your open domain chatbot is encouraged to give an answer, a closed domain chatbot is discouraged from giving an answer when it doesn't have the answer. So to give you an error message, I don't have that information, or I can't answer that, I'll refer you to somebody that can. I can only answer a question on a particular topic. We're starting to do chatbots built around a textbook. And we absolutely do not want our students getting wrong answers in a class. And so we'll use a closed domain chatbot there and put limitations on that. Customer support. Canada Air got into a bit of a snafu when somebody was trying to rebook a flight, and the chatbot told them that they could rebook at no fee. Well, that turns out to be against company policy, and the chatbot told them, and that went before a tribunal in Canada, and Canada Air was told that they had to honor the pledge that the chatbot made. So you've got to be real careful if you're closed domain. When you make a closed domain chatbot, that it doesn't tell things that aren't true. With closed domain chatbots, hallucinations are relatively rare. All right. So let's just talk about how we verify the responses that we get back from an AI. And this was something that I mentioned that I do. One of the things I do is I ask for a reference. Give me a peer-reviewed article. Give me a web link that covers this. You could go to fact-checking websites. I have got subscriptions to more than one AI. So I've got Copilot and I've got ChatGPT-4 that I use a lot. I will oftentimes take the answer I get from ChatGPT-4 and I will just take that answer and put it straight into Copilot and say, please verify these statements. Once again, it's not 100% accurate, but it will oftentimes give me links that I can look at. Consult with people that do searches on the web. There's lots of tools out there you can use, but the important thing is that you verify the answers that you're getting. This is kind of looking at the aspect of alignment. So I verified the answers perhaps. Am I getting what I want? And oftentimes the cause of not getting the answer I want is perhaps my prompt is a bit vague. Or maybe I'm asking too many things in my prompt. I've asked for a couple different aspects instead of that single query I wanted. Or I had some ambiguous language. Those are things that you should take into account when you craft a new prompt. Is take a look at your original prompt, look at your answer and say, how can I reword this? Another way you may not get the answer you want is because of limitations on the training data that went in there. AIs are built on a data set, and they're not updating that data set every day. So oftentimes you'll get an answer and it'll say, you'll ask it to verify, and it doesn't know. A good example of that, I was writing about the Hollywood writer's strike. I thought that was a good case to write for the book because it had a number of AI issues in it, copyright law and the like. And I wanted to um, get some information on that writer's strike. And maybe I was a little bit lazy. Rather than just go do a Google search, I was going to have AI help me do my search. The cutoff date on their training data set was before the writer's strike. So it had no information on it. Some of the AIs that things are constantly changing. Some AIs now have the capability, especially if you've got a paid subscription to them, to look up stuff on the web during the session. But there's oftentimes a training cutoff date. So let's say if you didn't get what you want, refocus your prompt. Add some language to it, perhaps give an example of the answer you want. Give a little more context. You're trying to write that letter and you say, hang on here. I want to rephrase this letter so it doesn't sound like I'm antagonistic toward them. Take out language that they might respond negatively to. I want this to be a friendly letter. So those are things that we can do to refocus our prompt. Any questions over stuff that I've talked about so far? Put them in the chat window, and I'll try and get to them. That's probably the easiest way to handle that. All right. So we talk about this prompt engineering. We start off clear goals. We write a prompt with that focus framework. We evaluate the answer we get back to make sure it's true. Did it achieve our goal? We refine the prompt we need it, and we have to be patient. It'll generate a lot of answers quickly. To get the answer that's truly used for us may take a little bit of work. All right. So we're going to go into the breakout session in just a minute, and this will be a good time to get some questions answered. But what we're going to do with our breakout session is we're going to break into groups, and I don't know what our exact numbers are right now, but groups of about 4 people, 3-4 people. Take a minute to introduce yourselves, and then choose somebody's business and some problem that they're dealing with. Perhaps, and I'll give you some example problems and prompts that you might use. So if we're entrepreneurs, we're trying to grow our business. We're trying to find new products. We're trying to find new customers. I will go through and show you a bunch of prompts that we could use in each of those cases. And then using that person's prompt, hopefully we've got things set up so everybody can share their screen in the breakout rooms. Use Copilot if you've or you could go and use Chat GPT-4. Those are two of the more common ones, but use an OpenAI, a chatbot, create a prompt, and then just go through that process to try and work toward getting an answer. And I'll give you about 20 minutes in there. So you've got time to go through a number of iterations. And then, a few minutes before we come back in, we'll let everybody know, and we will come back and we'll discuss what we learned there. So let's take a look at prompt ideas, and these are ones that I drew up for entrepreneurs. And for my example in here, basically we're running a bakery in Nairobi. And we're going to try and come up with a number of different things or questions that might be in there. So if we're running that bakery in Nairobi, we want to come up with new trends. So things that you will want to put into a prompt where you're looking for new trends is, what's your business? Where are you located? Well, what is your focus? In this case, it's an organic bakery. We can see that the fact that it's an organic bakery adds a whole nother dimension into the analysis. Identify your target audience. And then we need to be specific. What do we want? Well, we want to look for trends. So if I was trying to identify new trends for that bakery in Nairobi, the prompt I might try is, I own an organic bakery in Nairobi, specialize in healthy desserts. My customers are health-conscious individuals, 25 to 45. What are current global trends in the organic desserts that could inspire new product ideas for my bakery? So it's got context there in terms of where we're located, what type of specialty that we do, who our customers are. That would be a good starting prompt there for me to try and identify new trends in other countries that I might be able to bring to my bakery in Nairobi. All right. Perhaps we want to look at our local market and try and find some things within the local market that I can add to my product lineup. Well, in that case, you can see a lot of these things are going to be similar. It's going to be giving that context. Where's my business? Cultural regional preferences. So maybe there's a particular type of cooking or a particular type of seasoning favored in a particular area. And what am I trying to develop? I'm trying to develop desserts. So my prompt here, once again, I run a bakery in Nairobi focusing on organic desserts. What dessert flavors, that's getting into those regional preferences, are popular in Kenya that I can incorporate into a new product for my health-conscious consumers? Once again, I put health-conscious in there to add more context. We all want our business to stand out from anybody else's. We want to answer that question, why should you come to me instead of somebody else? So how can we do that, or what are opportunities to, once again, where's our business and location? What do we currently do? And you can see here what I'm doing is I'm looking for gaps. What are new products that I can offer? So I will operate that organic bakery offering gluten-free and vegan desserts. What gaps might I fill in local dessert market, or it might exist that my bakery could fill? So once again, this is looking for gaps in the market that you might be able to fill, to basically generate that right product for customers. Right? Once again, product innovation. I've got my target audience or preferences. Don't have it listed there, but once again, where are we at? What makes our business special? And here I'm asking for ideas. So I run a boutique bakery, specialized in organic desserts. My customers value health and sustainability. What unique dessert ideas can I offer that emphasize these values? Some of these things you can see I'm kind of asking the same question in different ways. And you can see that in the different ways these questions are asked, it brings a little bit different context to the question each time. We want to keep that in mind on our prompt engineering. And when we go through the iterative process in terms of rephrasing things. Looking for new things to offer. Business and location. What's the new product category? Who's our target audience? In this case, our new product offering is we want to have repeat business, and so we want to set up a subscription so that people will pay us and we will deliver them desserts every week for them to eat for that week. So a subscription box of healthy desserts for busy professionals aged 30 to 50. Got that context, I've got the target audience. What should the subscription box include and how can I market it effectively? You can see that prompt actually is asking two questions, and that's probably one that I should split up. So this is kind of an example of where when I get to the answer, it may be confused at the end because I've asked two questions. And so I may have to step back and say, what are some good subscription boxes? What should they include? And then I'll follow it up with that subscription box that you just recommended. How can I market that effectively? All right, we've got a product. How do we launch it? Well, we can come up with a kind of a business plan on launching. We want to give details on the product. Once again, where are we located? Who's our target audience? What's our goal for the launch? So we're launching our gluten-free organic muffins at our bakery in Nairobi. We've got our target customers here. What strategies can I use to create excitement and ensure a successful launch? This one, I may not get the answer I want the first time through because it may say something there and I realize that, it said busy parents. Well, maybe my busy parents belong to a particular social economic class. Maybe I'll want to expand on that a little bit more. Maybe these are parents with young children. I may need to specify things a little bit more there. So, things to be aware of with your initial prompts. You may not get everything that you want in it on the first try. Right? Another thing we may want to do as an entrepreneur is to validate our product idea. So I've got this idea and I want to launch. Help me come up with questions to ask customers if they would like it. So we've got our product concept. We're putting in a request for survey questions. And what are our goals for the validation purpose? So we've got our product. Once again, notice I don't have it listed up here, but my business and the location. Draft survey questions to test customer interest in desserts. So the computer, the AI can be very useful in helping craft survey questions. All right, so we're going to go to our breakout rooms now. And so before you come back to the main room, take a look at these questions here. These are the ones that I'd like you to discuss. What worked well? What didn't work well? What challenges did you face? And what did you learn? And we'll give you about 20 minutes. It is, yeah, it's about 45 past the hour. We'll come back at about 5 after the hour. We've got some people that facilitate things in each of the rooms. Let's go to it.
All
Mandy,
right. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and open the rooms. We believe you should have the ability to share your screens. We will pop in and see if that's working, but we'll go ahead and open the rooms now. And so please look for that pop up. Rochelle, have you opened the rooms?
Yeah, it looks like some people are joining. It's just
Okay,
taking a
great.
minute. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I wasn't added to one. That's why I'm not seeing it. Okay.
Yeah, I think I actually figured out it doesn't allow you to add the host to a room, so we'd have to
Ah,
switch. If you want to join a room, we can just switch roles.
it's okay.
it's good. It's all right. Excellent. It sounds like we had good sessions in which we saw how AI works. And, a lot of times that's what we really need is just to get kind of an exposure and see how it works to overcome the roadblock we sometimes have to trying to adopt new technology. So hopefully everybody will be able to uh, take some time and just try it out. You won't break things. What I want to do is talk. I've got a couple topics, and we've got limited time. Uh, so I will try and hit this at kind of a high level. Project management, and if you're an entrepreneur, things are projects, and we're used to breaking things down. The same thing goes for prompt engineering. With the problem we were looking at with trying to expand the market in water, that's a big job, and we really need to break it down into smaller parts and then solve each of those parts, just like you would with a big project. And so I'll show it quickly with that example, another example from my Nairobi bakery, and I probably need to get sponsorship from a bakery in Nairobi, but I want to prepare a comprehensive marketing plan for my gluten-free muffins, and I need to come up with a target audience, seasonal pricing strategy. Yeah, I want about 5 different things here. And the thing is um, there's all these different questions I'm trying to get answered, and I've got too much really to do in one prompt. And so a good strategy is to break it up into components. And so if I look at that prompt I put in there, one of them was asking for a branding position, marketing message. I was asking for a social media campaign. I was trying to identify who my target audience is. Pricing strategy, packaging design. I've got these different main components, and the answers to some of these questions are actually used as an input for another. So before I can figure out my marketing strategy, I need to know who my target audience is. So that's probably the first thing I need to do. Then I'll come up with my marketing message, do my package design, my pricing strategy, my social media campaign. I've ordered them out, and I'm going to tackle them in order. So I'm going to prepare a prompt to try and identify who's a good target audience. So you can see I've given that description, but here's the main part of that questionnaire. Can you help me analyze the ideal customer profile? And that may be something I need to break down into a couple steps. I may have to ask, what are the key demographics, age, income level, and the like, their preferences, challenges for that market or the people they have to try and fit those needs. And then how do I position my market to fit those needs? So I've got some simplified subprompts. The first thing is to identify key demographics for that customers. And then I'll move on to trying to identify their preferences and motivations. Then I'll look at barriers. And then I'll try and position it for the market. And now I've got everything pulled together. And that's just to answer that first bit there. Who's my target market? So what we're doing is just breaking down a really big task. And now I've got that first step, that task done. I've got my target market identified. Now I can use that target market in the other parts of the marketing strategy. So it's just getting back to the point there. We don't want to ask too much because there is a lot there. Break the jobs down and solve each problem and then use the answer in your next prompt. Now, I've got some other quick strategies that you can employ. I've called this one keywords and jargon. By putting words that are technical in your question, it helps set context. So if we think about that question about the James Webb Telescope, the language was very basic. But if I had put terms in there, instead of cool things, I said astronomical discoveries, then it would know that it's a different audience and set a different comprehension level, a different technical level. So, think about the words you use, and that will help give the AI context for the answer you're seeking. The second kind of strategy is to kind of balance brevity with detail. We can give a lot of detail, or we can be too brief. Both those things have problems, and you want to kind of find that middle point there where you give enough detail, but you're not overloading it to confuse the AI. And I call that kind of my clarity overlap. Some cautions about using AI. We've got to end looking at these cautions here. I mentioned this earlier. There's a fixed knowledge cutoff date for these LLMs, large language models that they're called. And periodically, because it's very expensive time-wise, I believe over $100 million was used to train ChatGPT-4. So they only update it periodically. I've got the egg carton here. Check the use by date. When was the date that they updated the model? If you're trying to invest in the stock market, using an AI, Gen AI to guide you, it's not going to have current information. Remember that your prompts can be used as data. Okay, this is very, very important. If you got sensitive company information or personal information, don't put that in a prompt. I use ChatGPT-4 with a subscription. Because I have a subscription instead of the free version, my prompts do not get used in the training database. Likewise, the university I work for has a subscription to Copilot instead of the free version, and that assures us that our data is not being used in the training data, that somebody else could somehow get student information that we don't want them to have. As part of that, avoid sharing personal information, whether it's yours or anybody else's, in your prompts. All right. So just be very careful about what you put in. There are legal and regulatory issues if you're in certain countries. These first two things here, GDPR and CCPA, let's talk about data privacy. If I've got customer information and I'm dealing anywhere in the EU, I've got to be aware that there are consent laws about people's data being saved. CCCP or CCPA, that's a California data protection law. Because in the US and a lot of places, it's hard not to have customers in California, you need to be aware of those laws if you are saving customer data and using that. FERPA and HIPAA. FERPA is an education restriction in the US. HIPAA is a medical one. Just keep in mind that you've got industry related things with data that you may be using from customers. I want you to just be aware that AI is constantly changing. The stuff that we're talking about today wasn't even around a year or 2 years ago. And so it's a good thing you're coming to the session. You're going to get the skills that you can keep up with what's going on. All right, so kind of our drum roll, the top 5 takeaways that I want you to have for today. All right. Use the focus framework on your prompts. If you write a good prompt, you are more likely to get a good answer that you can use. If you've got a complex task, break it down into smaller chunks and then solve those smaller chunks. Iterate for improvement. With this iterate, we want you to both do it to make sure that you've got true answers coming through, but also that you're getting the answer to the question you have. We're talking about complex tasks. That iteration also includes that aspect that I'm taking the answers I got to my first question and I'm using them in later prompts that I give the computer. Verify the output. Don't trust it blindly, especially when you've got company data or your reputation on the line. I'm using AI to do research for the book, and I can't let anything go out with my name on it that I couldn't verify as being true. So verify your AI output. And finally, my last takeaway for you is if you've got sensitive information, either company, proprietary company secrets, or strategies or customer information, make sure that you protect it. All right. Any questions? Either ask out loud, that's probably all right, or put it in the chat box and I'll answer them. I've got my contact information here if you'd like to email me or you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, that's good. It's been a fun session. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have in our time remaining.
Thank
I
you
have a
so much,
question.
Pat.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Patrick, you were talking about checking to see when the kind of what the expire by date is for the AI. How do we find that information? Is it can you see it in the updates in the app, or how do you find out maybe when the last update was made?
That's a great question. Ask it. You can just go
Sure.
right ahead and say, when is your knowledge cutoff date? And I say things are advancing. 6 months ago, the AIs by and large did not have the ability to access the web in real time. And now both the AIs I'm using, because I'm using ones I'm paying a subscription for, I do have that ability. Limited, but it's there. All right. Other questions? My hope always when there's no questions is that things were just completely obvious, rather than, gosh, I don't know enough to ask a good question. But you've got my email address in case you come up with that good question later. Email me. I'm happy to answer that. Looks like something's coming through in chat. Will I share the slides? I'm happy to share the slides. Mandy, you've got a way of sharing them?
I do. So I was going to say I will share the slides as well as a recording of this class with everyone. If for some reason you found this class without RSVPing, please send me an email and I can give it to you. I'm putting my email in the chat. But I will make sure that, I think the vast majority of you RSVP'd. I have your contact. I will send all that to you. And Chifungo, we totally understand being in Zambia, having really bad internet. Totally get it. Do not worry about not being able to participate in the voice call, but we will make sure you get the slides. Last call for questions.
All right. Yeah, we're at 89 minutes. How's that?
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming today. We really appreciate you being here. And thank you so much, Pat, for doing our presentation today. We certainly appreciate you. Wouldn't be able to do it without you. So with that, we will go ahead and say goodbye. And please keep your eyes on the website for more events like this in the future. Thank you.
Bye.